I call this meeting to order. Please stand for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we have the roll call?
Councilmember Deedy?
Here.
Councilmember Morgan?
Here.
Councilmember Edelman?
Here.
Councilmember Weber?
Here.
Councilmember Pepper?
Here. Madam Chair, may I have the floor?
No. We have a special, it's National Day of Prayer. We have Ginger Passarelli here. She's the chaplain for our police department, and she wants to say a prayer for us today.
Today is the National Day of Prayer, and a lot of cities had everyone gathering at their city halls and praying. I thought we should do that here. So as I pray according to my faith, would you join me in your faith? Heavenly Father, we come before you right now, and we're grateful for the lives that you've given us. We pray protection over our police officers, our firefighters, and all of the first responders, all of the military that represent so many of our families. Right now, I just pray a blessing of peace over our city, that you would keep your hand on us. We pray all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. So we're going to call an executive session now. We're going to meet in the squad room. And excuse me. For potential litigation, and Yvonne Ward, our new attorney, temporary attorney, will tell you what sections. You're going to tell us what section for the litigation.
1101I.
Mayor, may I make a request?
Yes.
I request that all council members' cell phones stay here in the council chambers and are not allowed into the squad room.
Okay. I concur with that.
For how long?
How long?
15 minutes.
Okay.
20.
Councilmember Weber?
I would also, that's a good idea, and I would also ask that, as far as the public, that, you know, we sit here at the dais, potentially sometimes we may have confidential information, like attorney confidential stuff. So I would appreciate personally if we didn't have folks coming up taking pictures of whatever's on the dais.
Everything you bring to this meeting is public.
Well, that's,
you're a public person, and everything
I understand
you bring to
that.
this meeting is public.
Well, still rude.
I call this meeting back to order.
Mayor.
It's in the room.
Yeah.
She won't be able to get in there. Thank you, Jamie.
Okay, I would accept a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilmember Weber?
Just to note that as far as the ending check, it's actually 43473,
Thank you.
and that was corrected by Ms. Miller.
Yes. Yes, and we have a copy of that correction too. Erica Morgan?
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I had promised my colleagues here on the bench, and I think the rest of you also need to know this. I wanted to welcome Yvonne Ward as...
Excuse, point of order. We have a motion on the table.
We have a motion on the floor to accept the consent agenda. We have a first and a second.
But I need to amend my motion, so I take back my first motion. I need to amend I make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the change. Notice that the last check number is 43473.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is public comments. Persons wishing to address the council regarding items of new business are encouraged to do so at this time. Is there anybody wishing to address council? Robin?
Robin Taylor, Black Diamond. I would ask for a little extra time. Not a lot, just a scotch.
I don't have a problem with that.
How much extra time, Robin?
Maybe 30 seconds extra, maybe.
I'm okay with that.
Get on with it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Brian Durdowski is a small fish swimming in the Big King County waters. He makes his living by swimming into small ponds and telling them that he is a big fish. He says things like, when I served on King County Council, or while on King County Council I did. And then there is, I am not an accountant, but, and the unforgettable, I am not an attorney, but. By doing this, he creates the image of a big fish coming to the rescue. But in reality, he is just a small fish. If he were actually a big fish, do you really think he would waste his time on Black Diamond? This small fish has been swimming around Black Diamond literally for years, talking about how he can help us. He finally found some takers, and now the city has been helped into chaos. This small fish recently named off a list of cities, and then modestly mentioned almost as an afterthought that the Seattle Times called them Durdowskivilles. A search brought up 2 Seattle Times articles. One uses the term but specifies that Durdowski was being quoted. The second article says the term Durdowskivilles is heard in the halls of the King County Council. Durdowski now looks like a big fish in Black Diamond. He tells you what good and brave rookies you are to stand up to the big, bad Black Diamond government. You close your eyes and bask in the praise of this big fish because Durdowski's hypnotic words are accompanied by liberal doses of his elixir of power, and it feels so darn good. Meanwhile, he has quietly slipped the reins of control out of your limp hands and taken them into his own. Durdowski has become so bold that he is now audibly telling the majority what to do during the council meetings. He is also visibly cueing you by mouthing how you should vote. The council majority is held tightly within the hypnotic grasp of this small fish. You have 3 votes, but you have abdicated your elected positions and given them all to Brian Durdowski. Councilmember Weber is aware of a quote from General Patton which says, quote, "If everyone is thinking alike, then no one is thinking," close quote. None of the council majority is thinking, but the small fish Durdowski certainly is. And rest assured, his thoughts are about how his own future and how Black Diamond can help him. Durdowski will make the city of Black Diamond into the form of government he wants it to be. When he succeeds, Black Diamond will be added to his list of Durdowskivilles. History will look derisively on this sleeping council majority, and others will be left to clean up the mess created by the small fish and the hypnotized council majority who listened to him. Now, lest any of this begin to stir you to wakefulness, know this. Durdowski will rush in to lull you back into your drunken stupor with pinpoint applications of his attaboy elixir of power. It will either happen here or outside of the public view, but it will happen. I would challenge you all to wake up, but I believe it is too late. You are all drunk on the power Durdowski wants you to think you have, but in reality, it is he who has the real power. Sad thing is, he owns you, and you don't even know it.
Is there anybody else wishing to address council? Oh.
Bill McDermott, Black Diamond. You're right. It did stir us up. I remember a while back, I said something about somebody in the audience. I believe it was either, I think it was Colin. And I immediately was shot down. You don't say anything about anybody in the audience. Now, where's the consistency here? Yeah? There's no consistency, is there? She got away with every single word. She blasphemed him. You can't do that. I'm waiting for a response. Why the inconsistency? Why did I was asked to leave this podium just because when I made a remark about Colin.
I don't have an answer for you.
Well, they should have one. It's your duty. I've got the time. I guess we just have to go with it and say that that's the way things are. Very one-sided and very inconsistent. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to address council?
Judith Carrier. Mayor Benson.
We need your address, please, or your city.
Auburn, Washington, Southeast King County, 24315 Southeast Green Valley Road. Council members, at the last council meeting, April 21st, there was a man sitting near the front of the room, south side, near the beginning of the meeting, and behind him, Mayor Benson, Mr. Farmer, the mayor's husband, spoke out loudly, not from the podium, but from the back of the south wall where he often stands. The man turned to look back at him and then turned to look at the mayor. The mayor said nothing about the manner or propriety of the intrusive comment. The meeting continued, and shortly Mr. Farmer shouted out again, more disruptive than earlier. The man turned again to look at Mr. Farmer, and then turned around and looked at the mayor, and the mayor said nothing. During the first comment period of that meeting, I asked the mayor, as presiding officer, to control council meetings. Whether the mayor refers to 2015 or 2016, the Black Diamond City Council rules and Robert's Rules of Order are the same for people on the dais and the gallery. Except at the podium, citizens are to remain respectful and silent. I know the mayor knows these rules. Last year there was order in this chamber most of the time. The mayor was professional enough to make it happen. I think the mayor could still make it happen unless the mayor has become unbalanced, which I seriously doubt, or is purposely encouraging the atmosphere someone recently described to me as a food fight without the food. Unfortunately, The man who watched the interplay between the mayor and Mr. Farmer decided he too would speak out from where he was sitting, not too loudly at first, watching the mayor. Testing. The mayor said nothing. The new status quo. He became louder, spoke out more frequently, and along with a few other adults who have been making this kind of behavior a habit, he became possibly the most disrespectful and foul-mouthed person ever heard here in this room. For him, it was especially unfortunate. I spoke with him briefly during the executive session break. He seems to be bright, very personable, and quite self-confident. He could be such an asset to this community, but he now has an understanding of the process of civil government that is sadly lacking. In contrast, the Government Operations Standing Committee met last week. 3 Enumclaw High School students from a government class attended. Council members Morgan and Pepper went through the agenda business. The students took notes. Councilmember Morgan gave a fairly detailed explanation of the history and importance of the Civil Service Commission. The students answered questions when asked and were respectful in every way. They thanked the council members when the meeting was adjourned. For the record, I'm asking the mayor, Mayor Benson, again, to return the city council meetings to the decorum, fairness, and the smooth flow of business that once existed with the mayor as the presiding officer. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak?
Angelina Taylor, Port Orchard, Washington. First time being here, and it's actually quite sad. I lived in Enumclaw, and I dealt with the fire commission there, and I look around the room, and most of the people here are a lot of older couples that have watched Black Diamond grow, and instead of looking to your government to hold them accountable, you're fighting amongst yourselves. Instead of making them work for you, you're bickering with one another. They're supposed to be working for you instead of you just fighting each other. They're accountable to you. You elected them. They answer to you. Everything up on that podium, you have access to. Everything in their emails, you have access to. They don't have any privacy anymore because they're elected. So when someone wants to take pictures of their stuff, they can. That's what we have government rules for. You want to go look them up? They're all over the internet, RCWs that'll tell you what you have rights to do. You can ask us not to take pictures of your stuff, but you don't have that right anymore. You put yourself in this position when you ran for office. You stepped in the limelight, and that's why you went through training. And the training told you, everything you do is at public access. If you use a private email address for city business, I now have access to it. I now have access to your computer. I now have access to your phone. Everything that you do city business on, I can access. Because you've now stepped over the bounds and put yourself in a place to be at the city's disposal. You work for them. You answer to them. You guys need to stop fighting each other and make them accountable to you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Darrell?
Darrell Buss with Black Diamond. 30-year resident, plus 30-plus years, and very infrequent spectator to the Planning Commission and City Council meetings. I've been here to several, and I've been on the Planning Commission for, I think 10 years. I'm not sure now. But anyway, I came here because my wife was at a meeting couple meetings ago, and she was telling me about all the childish behavior that was going on with the council. And I decided, well, I'm going to come here and see for myself and I read in the paper about how things are progressing in this chamber, and it saddens me because it's just not the way it should be done. We should be adults here. We should not be acting like 10 years olds, and that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Seeing no one, I will close this public comment section. So, Councilmember Morgan.
Thank you. I wanted to welcome our new attorney, Yvonne Ward, to this Black Diamond meeting. I understand that you've been hired by the mayor to provide legal services to the city of Black Diamond on an emergency basis for a limited amount of time. We appreciate your willingness to assist our city. We were not notified that you were hired, and we were not consulted in any way. The council has authority to contract with a city attorney, and we have not reviewed or voted on your contract. Despite our objections, we believe that you will work in good faith to serve both the mayor and the council equally, and we extend our welcome to you and invite you to participate in our council meeting as an offer of your legal services as we have need of them. And my companions here on the dais had asked me about our agenda for this meeting, and I told them that I would speak to the revised agenda to everyone at once. I think that we handed several of them out.
You're out of order.
We have attempted.
You are out of order.
Excuse me. I have the floor, Mayor.
You're out of order. You cannot substitute another agenda.
Chairwoman.
You're out of order. You cannot substitute another
agenda. Point
of
order. I have the floor.
You are out of order.
Point of order. I have the floor. Point of order. I have the floor.
You do not have the floor. The next item on the agenda
I appeal the decision of the mayor.
You are out of order.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Are we ready to vote?
You are out of order. Okay, I recess this meeting. I hope you calm down.
How long?
Or further action.
How long?
Just 5 minutes. Back to order. I would like to warn you, Councilmember Morgan, if you continue to disrupt the meeting, you could be removed, and I could get a legal opinion from the attorney.
Are you asking for an opinion?
Mm-hmm.
Is this on?
Yes.
Under statute, under federal case law, and under the council's own rules, under Ninth Circuit law, the court has long held that presiding officers have great discretion in enforcing reasonable rules for the orderly conduct of meetings. Under statute,
about our agenda for this meeting, and I told them that I would speak to the revised agenda to everyone at once. I think that we handed several of them out.
You're out of order.
We have attempted.
You are out of order.
Excuse me. I have the floor, Mayor.
You're out of order. You cannot substitute another agenda.
Chairwoman.
You're out of order. You cannot substitute another
agenda. Point of order. I have the floor.
You are out of order.
Point of order. I have the floor. Point of order. I have the floor.
You do not have the floor. The next item on the agenda
I appeal the decision of the mayor.
You are out of order.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Are we ready to vote?
You are out of order. Okay, I recess this meeting. I hope you calm down.
How long?
or further action.
How long?
Just 5 minutes. Back to order. I would like to warn you, Councilmember Morgan, if you continue to disrupt the meeting, you could be removed, and I could get a legal opinion from the attorney.
Are you asking for an opinion?
Mm-hmm.
Is this on?
Yes.
Under statute, under federal case law, and under the council's own rules, under Ninth Circuit law, the court has long held that presiding officers have great discretion in enforcing reasonable rules for the orderly conduct of meetings. Under statute, the presiding officer has the right, and actually under the oath of office, probably the obligation to enforce that right to remove anyone who's disorderly. I was asked to look at the council rules. I looked at both sets because it's an open legal question on which rules apply. Under both rules, 2.10 as well, a disruptive member can be removed. It's not subject to a vote by the council.
Okay, the next item of business is claim check from March 7th, number 43294 from DKS Associates in amount of $10,000. Did you want to speak to that, Brian Weber?
I speak to that. First, I just want to let everybody know this $10,000 voucher has already been paid, and that I'm also going to move that this item gets sent to the Growth Management Committee as it relates to the comp plan and the other DKS contract.
Councilmember
that.
Dede?
So I just have a question on what information are you still looking for? What information has the mayor provided you? And where are you at in your committee on discussion?
We're still looking at some of the background. And we discussed that in committee.
The background of what?
The voucher.
So, okay, and then what information has the mayor provided you that you don't feel that you're still getting? And what's missing that you're not getting?
It'll be in the committee.
But this is a perfect place to talk about that. You've got all 5 council members, you've got the mayor, you've got Barbara Kincaid here to discuss what you're still needing in the unfinished business area. So all council is up to date and knows why it's staying in there. I mean, we can't just keep holding stuff. We got to have reasons.
Well, it doesn't affect, it's already been paid, so it's not affecting as far as the DKS goes.
But it does affect. I mean, it's sitting there, so the public's like probably wondering too, why does this just keep getting moved into a committee, from one committee to another committee? What is the issue?
When I have the answer, I will let it be known.
What is the question that you're seeking to get an answer for?
I'd say what I'm going to say.
But you make no sense.
Well,
Do I have any further comments? All those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Can I have a roll call vote on that? I didn't see who voted.
Can you please state what we're voting on? I'm lost.
I can. It was the motion that Councilmember Morgan seconded. It was a motion to move this item to the Growth Management Committee.
By Councilmember Weber.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can we have a roll call vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Dede?
No.
Councilmember Morgan?
Yes.
Councilmember Edelman?
No.
Councilmember Weber?
Yes.
Councilmember Pepper?
Yes. Question? I'm just curious about the parliamentary procedure when there's a verbal or an oral vote, and then when we do a roll call, the vote's changed. Is there any kind of precedence for that?
There was a vote that was oral, but the chair then asked for a roll call
votes.
So the roll call takes priority. Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a resolution accepting the Department of Ecology grant for 2015-2017 Stormwater Capacity Grant. Mr. Botcher.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I've addressed this a few times before. This is a grant to assist the city with the implementation of the stormwater permit requirements of the Department of Ecology. So I'm available if you have any questions.
So I know that this has been in committee for quite a while. I think it's gone through, at least the last time I counted, was the nine times. So I'm assuming it's that 12 times it's been in different committees. So again, my same questions as the last time. What are you seeking? What information are you lacking? You got Seth Botcher here to answer. So who's the chair of that committee? Well, I guess either one of them can speak.
Yeah, it's been to every committee, so all three of them have seen it several times.
So could one of the three of you speak on that and say what you're looking for? The three of you are holding it up in the committee. So I'm ready to vote yes on it, to move it on. So,
Mayor.
Councilmember Edelman.
I would also like to make a statement that this was first presented to the City Council on February 4th. It was a $50,000 stormwater grant for 2 years. Since we've been dragging our feet, the state now, because they've got some funding issues, have now reduced it to $25,000. This is another grant that the city needs to do their stormwater projects, that we get reimbursed by the state for the work that we're doing. By us dragging our feet still, there's work in this city that is not being done. That's not fair to our citizens, and it's certainly not fair to our staff and to the companies that we need to hire to do the jobs that need to be done. This needs to be moved forward. And so at that point, I make a motion to adopt resolution number 16-1074, authorizing the mayor to execute a stormwater grant with the Department of Ecology for the 2015 to 2017 Stormwater Capacity Grant.
second.
And you might notice that you had put on the agenda an ordinance updating the stormwater code for the to meet the Department of Ecology standards for Western Washington, and we wouldn't have any money to do that if you don't approve this stormwater grant. Councilmember Morgan.
As you may recall, one of the things that we wanted to be certain of was how this grant was going to be used. And one of our priorities is for that grant to be used primarily for updating the stormwater. That's later on in this agenda. So if that's how it's going to be used, but that is what the information was that was holding this up. And if that is how it's going to be used, then our vote will be for it, or at least mine will be.
Any further comment?
I'd like Mr. Botcher to explain the difference between the 50 and 25 a little more. It's not completely, as it seems on the surface, that because it wasn't passed, that it went from 50 to 25. There was some budget reduction from the state, correct?
That's correct. And as I explained, 2 or 4 weeks ago, I'm not sure, even though the language in the letter seemed to indicate that those that did not implement or sign a contract, their money would be reduced, there was an escape clause, per se, in the grant, the language of the grant clause itself, that allowed Department of Ecology to reduce the funds if they had revenue issues. So, and as I stated in that meeting, if that would take a legal determination to just say if it was if we had signed it earlier, could we have held the money? I don't think so, but because the language in the grant seemed pretty clear that they could reduce the funds.
Councilmember Dede?
So my thought a little bit on that was also that if I was ecology and I knew that I was going to reduce the funds, I would look at cities that have not adopted yet and look at them first and say, okay, I'm going to reduce the funds on that city because obviously they're dragging their feet and it's not important, so I'm going to reduce them first. And then move on to the people that have already adopted if they still need to get more money to balance their budget. That's how I looked at it. So, I mean, it's perception. You can look at it however you want.
Councilmember Pepper?
I would just like to say that this is still in committee.
Pardon me?
I would just like to say that this is still in committee.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. No.
Opposed?
No.
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 Wait. Mm-hmm. How can you vote
Thank
twice?
you.
Well, she voted no twice.
She did. With help from Brian.
Thank you, Erin.
The next item on the agenda is a resolution confirming the mayor's appointment to the Civil Service Commission. Do we have any comment?
Mayor?
Pardon me?
Can we have point of order in the audience so we can actually hear you?
Oh, sorry. Councilmember Morgan?
This item is in my Government Ops Committee. We are still doing investigation on it, and it needs to stay in committee. I move that it stay in committee.
Councilmember Dede?
So I know that Councilmember Morgan has been attending other municipalities on their civil service, and that she has been talking to the city of Kent and asking them some legal questions and some other questions about how they run it and how their clerk does everything. But my question is to the council members here, have you even talked to Louisville, who is the clerk for the civil service? Have you even read our manual of the civil service? There's a document right here that has everything in it. And you're asking other municipalities how they do it and why they do it. So I just need help to understand what you're looking for. Because I don't know. You're dragging other municipalities into this when you haven't even, I'm pretty sure, haven't even talked to your own chief of police or your civil service person, Louisville. So I'm done. You can answer.
Councilmember Morgan?
I have here, and I have pretty much annotated a lot of our civil service manual. I've been comparing it to Steve DiDulio, who you all know, looking for how many pages it is. This is the annexation, extra afterwards. But anyway, it's like over 100 pages of legal commentary on civil service commissions in general. I have discovered some issues that I can't discuss here from the dais.
Where are you going to discuss that at?
They would be issues that would be required to be in executive session. I'm looking for those answers, and I will have to have those answers before I would be ready to have this come out of committee.
Mayor Benson.
Councilmember Dede?
Unless somebody else. Okay, so that didn't make any sense to me. But so if you have a legal question, you have an attorney that you can talk to. You can send an email. You can, I'm assuming, call if Mayor Benson allows that. But I'm just saying that you should not drag another municipality into the city business and ask them legal questions. And I can't even imagine, did she even respond back to you on these questions that you had?
She hasn't responded back to me, and on your other issue, I have asked Mayor Benson if I could speak with Jamie Kiblinger and Louisville. I've asked her if she would speak to them and come to our committee meeting. I've asked first if she would send them to our committee to discuss these issues with us so that we could get a little bit of a better grasp on the Civil Service Commission for a number of reasons, including the fact that we have, and all cities I'm finding are having a hard time filling their Civil Service Commission because people have a limited understanding of what it is and what it does, and that's one of the main things would be to sort of raise that intelligence level up. But when I started looking at things, I found things that are going to need to have a little bit more review. And, you know, that's what I can say.
Councilmember Edelman.
Well, I just have one question, and it's going to be a little bit more general in nature, but specific to this one also, is how long does it take for these committees to process any of this work? These are all resolutions, and this one specifically, that have been in the committees for months.
Councilmember Dede.
So to help everybody understand, this is just an appointment of a citizen who wants to be on the civil service. This isn't looking at reformatting the whole civil service. By all means, the council can have a work study and sit down and reformat the civil service if we want. We can invite the chief of police, we can invite Louisville, we can invite an attorney, and we can all sit down and go through it. This is just about appointing a citizen to the Civil Service Commission. That is all it is about. So everything else is mute. I mean, this is ridiculous. Just appoint the lady to the civil service position, and then by all means, continue doing your investigation, because the civil service is running. It's up and running today. There's 2 members on it. So just appoint the 3rd member, and then do what you need to do on everything else. But at least pass this through. And I hear from Erica, but I'd love to hear from the other 2 council members that are going to vote however Erica votes, why you are going to also hold this up and not vote to just appoint the lady. And then go in to dig into all the other rules and regulations that are adopted per RCW, per state law. And then the city also can add other things just like the council does. So I just need help understanding again why this is being held up.
Councilmember Morgan.
Councilmember Dede is on our GovOps committee. And if she needs to know more about what is going on with the Civil Service Commission, she should come to those meetings.
Oh my gosh.
Councilmember Dede.
Every council member up here has the right to know what is happening in every one of those committees. And every council member up here has the right to listen to unfinished business at every council meeting to understand where it is at. Whether I attend these meetings that right now I feel are illegal, and I have not attended, so I have stayed out of them. But I am just saying that I and everybody else here have the right to know what's going on. So from that statement, then whoever else isn't on there, one other member, doesn't have the right to know what's going on the civil service or what they're doing, is what she's telling me. So that's ridiculous.
I call for the question.
Do we have a motion?
I move to adopt Resolution 16-1079, authorizing the Mayor's Civil Service Commission appointment of Becky Arnold to the Black Diamond Civil Service Commission position number 3.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
No.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a resolution authorizing agreement with BHC for building services. Ms. Kincaid.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This is something that I have spoken to in the past, so I'll make it short. We previously had building services, meaning a building official, plans examiner, and inspections being performed through a tri-party agreement, interlocal agreement. Black Diamond was receiving services from Covington and Maple Valley. That agreement had been in place for several years, and the mayor and I recently, in March, terminated that agreement and instead brought to you BHC Consultants a resolution with an agreement for them to provide building services. And so the reasons in the staff report, there are several reasons. Ultimately, it's a better fit for the city than what the citizens were experiencing and complaining about under the old ILA that's been terminated. The city is actually going to benefit financially by this new agreement. And so it's quite simply a request for council to consider giving the mayor approval to execute a personal services agreement with BHC Consultants, LLC, to provide the city with building services. Any questions?
Mayor?
Councilmember Edelman.
I just have a comment, because this is really important. This affects any citizen in our city who wants to get a building permit. If you want to put an addition on your home, if you want to build a supplemental building on your property, the Shake and Bake people want to start building the 9 houses just up here on Fifth Avenue, they're basically shut down. And we as a city should not be doing that. That's not right. And also, the big elephant in the room on this is our brand new elementary school. Are you 3 council members going to shut down the progress of building a new elementary school because of your biases? I support this wholeheartedly, and I hope we can finally get something passed tonight.
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 16. The clerk will assign the number at adoption, authorizing the mayor to execute a professional service agreement with BHC Consultants, LLC, for building services.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Councilmember Beatty?
could I ask, is there, again, information that they're looking for, or is there something that the mayor and Barbara can provide to them at tonight's meeting that's holding this up?
Councilmember Edelman?
Or are you just being obstructionists?
Nope.
Okay.
I think we deserve an answer, Mayor.
I can't make them answer. Next item on the agenda is a resolution approving an agreement with DKS Associates. Ms. Kincaid.
Again, thank you. So this is another item that's been in committee, and so I've already spoken to you on it. But this is another personal services agreement that I'm asking you to consider approving the mayor execute. It has to do with the comprehensive plan update, which we're behind, and DKS was the subconsultant doing just the transportation piece of our comprehensive plan update. They were working under the larger contract that we had for the rest of the comp plan with a firm called Berger ABAM. So Berger ABAM basically spent the budget that we had, and we weren't quite done with the comp plan work that they were doing for us, but they brought it to a point where we have a complete first draft. So at that point, I terminated that Berger ABAM contract to save the city money and to complete the rest of the work in-house, with the exception of the transportation part. That's too technical and complicated. DKS has done, I want to say, 90% of that transportation part. So we've already expended a significant amount of money, and we just need you to consider approving that contract for them to finish their work, which is a little over $20,000. So that is something that, again, the comp plan is important. The transportation element that they've started, we really don't want to have to go out and start all over again. Let's just let them finish their work. Any questions?
Councilmember Edelman.
You talk about it being about $20,000 maybe. On the
24.
fiscal note here, it says that the budget for the comp plan this year is $34,655. So that's telling me that they're going to come in under budget. Is that a good assumption?
Yes, we have. What that means is we have the budget to pay for them to finish the work, correct?
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Morgan.
The comp plan budget, I was looking for it in last year's budget. How much is the comp plan budget? What's the figure? I couldn't find it.
Oh, May, do you have that off the top of your head? This year is adopted. It's in the capital projects part of the budget, and
I believe there was a budget of $90,000, but that anticipated that we would spend less last year, so we actually carry over the actual cash balance that was left from last year, because Berger Abram sent pretty high bills that we had to pay last year. So I think the amount she gave, the amount that you saw, was probably what's in there. I didn't bring my budget with me tonight.
I didn't see that $34,000 anywhere in there. I didn't see. I looked in all through all those pages, and there's a lot of them, and it'd be real easy for me to miss it. I really didn't see anything that had comp plan. I had some things that were. I could find some things that were community development.
It was. I think the budget was about $90,000 in the budget document. I can get you a copy, or if anyone calls or emails, I can get a copy.
And it's under the capital projects in the budget. So I have a hard time finding it too, but so it's not in community development's budget. It's under capital.
And then I actually have another question, and my other question is, there was like $24,000, and then there was an option.
Yeah.
And what triggers that option? Will we know? Will the council know when that option is being exercised?
Yes.
And that other option is for like basically another $10,000. And these numbers, the way they add up, are causing me a little bit. I would just like to have those numbers straightened out in my head.
Sure, and I sure wish I had brought the sheet with me, but I don't. So the way that is scoped with those amounts is that, does anyone happen to have that? So I can just read the,
What do
you have the DKS agenda bill with you? Oh, thank you. I wasn't, okay. So the 34655 includes these two optional tasks. So basically, the two optional tasks, one is to have DKS come to our open house, and that would be about $3,600. The other one is $6,500 to come and attend the public hearings. I'm not sure that we need to expend that money to have them do that. And now I wish I had a calculator, because if you subtract, thank you. So if you take 34655 and you subtract 3615 and you subtract 6555.
Start over again.
Okay. 34655 minus
3615 minus 6555 is 2445. That's what we're going to expend for them to finish the work. These optional tasks would not be done unless we brought it back to council approval. I just wanted you to know the full
So those would come back to council for approval?
Yes.
What sorts of things would you envision triggering that you would do that? I mean, they're two different things. So I'm curious what you had in your mind when you allocated those amounts of money for that.
I didn't. This is DKS's in their scope as these possible extra items that we may need them to help us with, and so they are the ones that that's their rate. That's what they would charge us. That's their fee, their fixed rate fee for those services. When we talked with them and we put that as optional in the scope, I was thinking possibly because it's so technical in nature. When we get to the public open house, there may be questions that we've got a technical advisory group, very technical group of people. There may be questions that I cannot answer, and the public needs to have answers at that. So that would be one. That's what I was thinking there possibly. I'd like to think that maybe I would be studied up and well versed enough to be able to handle those questions, but we'll kind of know as we go through, I believe, the work study on that chapter when we do our joint work study. Then it's always nice to have an option to have your consultant attend the public hearings. But again, we're on a really strict budget, and if we can't afford it, we probably will just forego it and wing it without that.
Well, if there's no other comments, I make a motion to adopt Resolution 16- clerk will assign the number, authorizing the mayor to sign a personal services agreement with DKS Associates.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Well, I've talked a lot on this subject, but this brings up one of the things that is troublesome to me. We don't know how much money we have in the pot. We're not sure how much we're taking out. I just think that the citizens of Black Diamond deserve better accounting coming forward before we vote things forward. And I'm sorry, but where I'm going to have to come down is vote no. So I think maybe this item would be worthwhile if we brought it back to its committee and got those questions that I asked answered concretely, completely, and then we can probably pass it on. But I don't think it's fiscally responsible to not know how much money you're spending and to not know how much money you have to spend and to go out and spend it anyway.
Well, the fiscal note does tell us how much money we have, and those are hard figures, not to exceed figures.
But I don't have them here.
They're on the agenda, Bill.
Yeah, I write the fiscal note, and I look at the actual cash that's sitting there, because we have a budget, but we have some other costs that have been paid. That was exactly the dollar amount that we put in the fiscal note that was left. So there's more left than what they're asking to have passed tonight.
Yeah, but I'm concerned about the whole amount. You told me $90,000.
That was what was in the budget, and the budget said, oh, there's going to be more cash left over. I recalculated it. Last year, there was a budget. For Berger Abram, capital budgets can be carried forward, but you can only carry over the real balance that's left, not what you thought in August might be left, because you didn't know what all the bills would be. So when I get into January, we know exactly what the expenditures were. I know exactly how much we've spent to date on this project. And when we did the fiscal note, I look up that day exactly what's left, and that's what we put in the fiscal note of what's left of the budget.
That's in,
yes.
So the 34,
yes,
whatever, and we're talking about spending the whole thing. And
no, we're
all the money that we have left For the comprehensive plan?
24,000 is what we're talking left.
24,000 is what we're talking about?
That's what the agenda bill is for tonight, is to spend 24,000 to finish the transportation element out of the 34.
Well, but the scope of work has that those extra pieces.
They're within the 34,000 if you want to do it, but you don't have to.
I understand that. And I'm also asking where this money is coming from.
The budget was in last year's.
I understand that, but I'd like to, before
Councilmember
I vote to
Morgan.
spend the money, I'd like to see how much money there is.
Councilmember Morgan?
I'll shut up.
It's in the budget. You didn't approve the budget, sorry. You didn't approve the budget.
I looked for
But
it
the
and I
budget was
couldn't find it.
approved. We have a motion on the floor.
Thank you, May.
And a second.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Councilmember Weber?
Yeah, I would like to put forth an amended motion that, since there is still question or some contention on this item, that we move this to our regular scheduled council meeting on May 19th. There is a budget committee meeting the Monday before, and that between now and then, we should be able, or Councilmember Morgan should be able to.
I would second that.
Accept it.
Let's clear the motion that's on the floor. So all those in favor? You can't amend the motion by what you're doing.
Okay, then I retract.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Actually, he can.
He can?
Yeah, he can move to continue as a council member. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn. I didn't
Oh, no.
recognize it.
Go ahead.
He can actually move to continue an action item to a date certain.
Okay.
As part of a motion to amend, or actually be motion to continue to a date certain. That's in both Robert's rules, but also it's in both versions of the council rules, and I think 3.1.
So if they move it to a date certain, do they have to vote on it on that date, or can they move it again?
It would just be moving the item to that date for consideration. It's not like, and then you would revisit it at that time with whatever.
Okay, so you're amending the motion to move it to the 19th.
So you have to first vote. The council has to vote on his motion to move it to.
Okay. So we have a motion and do we have a second?
I seconded
Did
it.
parliamentary read the motion and then the amendment to the motion?
The motion was to send this to the next council meeting because you had two committee meetings in between the next council meeting. So it's the next council meeting is where he's sending this to. And the motion before that was to adopt this resolution.
It's not technically a motion to amend. It's a motion to postpone, but it's proper.
Okay, then I will withdraw my last statement, and I will make a motion to postpone this item till the May 19th regular scheduled council meeting.
And I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
So thank you very much, and I just want to say, so the agenda bill, the amount of money in the fiscal note on the agenda bill is how much money we have to spend. We don't have very much left. That's why I had to terminate merger ABAM, because we were bleeding money. And we can finish this. We can do it. But the attachment to the resolution I prepared for you, that has the agreement. That also will, that's where you'll find this language that those optional items, they don't happen unless council approves them. So it's all there in that package that we're asking to spend 24, I think 755 or whatever to get this done. And we have the budget.
And it's item number 7 in your agenda package.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, Barb.
Councilmember Dede.
So just for clarification for myself, so what information, because I thought Barb and May explained it quite well, and it's in our documents. So what information is going to move this forward and hopefully get adopted without saying I still haven't got my information? So what concrete, exactly information is the 3 council members looking for? So that Barb, when she goes back tomorrow, she'll say, aha, and probably I'm assuming send it to all of us. So,
Well, we've got another motion on the floor. You made a motion to adopt this resolution, and you had a second.
that's
So,
right, yeah.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
Wait,
Wait,
backwards,
no.
backwards.
Right.
Say it, do it again. I'm sorry.
Maybe we don't know what we're voting on.
It's to vote to pass it, right? Yeah, it's to vote to pass it.
Yeah. Yes, this was the
Okay.
vote to pass that resolution.
The resolution,
Yes,
okay,
we made
so-
a second motion, but we still had the first motion on the floor.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I'm an aye.
If the motion to postpone it has, to a date certain has passed, then
Yes.
Negates
resolves
the other
the
way.
issue.
Oh, it does?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
So
All right, so that's on hold.
Councilmember Adams.
Well, just a thought crossed my mind that it might behoove the council members that are on the finance committee to maybe sit down with the finance director and maybe the community development director prior to your meetings so that you have an understanding of what's going on. So when you have your meetings, you guys can actually talk about it and have some facts. Thank you.
So Mayor Benson.
Councilmember
So,
Deedy.
so could there be an answer to my question? You know, what is the council looking for from Barb and May? So when they go back, they can get that going. So can somebody answer that so she knows what they're gonna do? Get that information so that when you're at the committee, you just don't say, "Oh, I haven't got the information. So do you agree to pass it to the next committee meeting?" I mean, with no discussion. So I'm just trying to figure out what you need from her.
I put that postponement because there was obviously still question.
Right, and that's what I'm
And so
saying. Can we
if
can
we
we get
do-
that on there?
I don't have a specific question right this second. There's other business to move forward on. And so I will take this up during the budget committee meeting. And in between now and then, when specific questions come up, then I will get a hold of either Ms. Kincaid or Ms. Miller.
So can I?
Mayor,
Yeah,
out of order.
Councilmember Deedy.
So okay, so that didn't make any sense to me because what you're saying is that you don't have any reason to not vote it in or vote it in. It made no sense that you're just saying that you don't really have any questions, but you're going to look at it some more and come back. I mean, we've had this for 9 days, and did anybody email Barbara or May to ask those questions? And we could stare at each other, but I mean,
Councilmember Edelman.
This is just an example of how well this council does not work. Tammy, Deedy, and I are continually shut out of any processes that these folks are involved in. There's no coordination with us. We ask a pointed question, and what do you see? Hear no evil, see no evil, do no evil. We never get a straight-up answer. Maybe it's because they don't have their questions yet provided to them.
Councilmember Weber.
I just want to say that Councilmember Edelman is out of order.
Fine. Truth hurts.
Oh, it doesn't.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is resolution authorizing a conservation grant agreement with Puget Sound Energy for the LED streetlight conversion project. Mr. Botcher.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is available, funds available from the State Transportation Improvement Board, as well as funding from Puget Sound Energy, and will help us reduce our street lighting budget, improve the longevity of the lights, and so it's a good energy savings project, so we'd like to get that started.
Councilmember Morgan.
Hello. This didn't go on the agenda for our last meeting. It's here for first reading. I move that it be assigned. In fact, I don't have to move because it's the council rules that it be assigned to the Government Operations Committee, and we'll discuss it at our next meeting and see if we can bring it back to you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Question.
Councilmember Edelman.
Parliamentary inquiry, I guess. When we're moving these resolutions to, I guess I should have addressed them to you. When they get moved to a council committee, can we have a date certain specified at the time?
Well, first of all, there can be, it's called a motion to commit or refer. Okay,
Yeah.
That's when you send it to a committee. It's very common. So there'd be a motion to commit or refer to X committee. And then you don't have to have a date certain in terms of when it comes out, but you can certainly have someone move to amend and say, move to amend that the committee reports out by X. That motion to amend would then be voted on, up or down, and then you go back to your main motion.
Yeah.
Where you're in sync, and vote on that. Just so you know, it's very common.
Oh, no, I'm not disputing that. Yeah. What I'm really trying to get to is having it such that we can actually send. I don't have a problem sending these things to the committees. I don't agree with the committees, but that's fine. My problem is that they never come back out. So that's why I was hoping that maybe we could say they can go in for a couple of meetings or whatever for them to sprinkle holy water on it and then bring it back out.
That would be the either if someone can make the original motion to commit or refer to X committee for a report by X date, or maybe the motion doesn't have a date, then you do the motion to amend to put in that date. So that would be your process to decide if you're going to have a return date. But it would have to be voted on.
And it'll get voted down, so why bother?
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Aye.
Councilmember Dede?
So I was wondering if Seth could come back up, if that would be all right. And just talk about the benefits of the LED lights for the city.
And
obviously,
this is Section 8 in your packet.
Right,
it's all in there, the financials part.
Right, but obviously it's a cut in costs for us. You know, it's a good. But I mean, there's other benefits.
Yeah, the benefits is the lighting is better. It's a whiter light, and the bulbs last longer. So you've all seen the LED lights on a lot of the cars now. It's more whiter color light than the orange or yellows, or sometimes almost.
Well, and last night at the meeting in my slideshow, there was actually a picture showing the difference between the before and after picture of the LED lights.
Yeah, because my understanding from last night's meeting also, you know, it's a pedestrian safety. It's a little bit better lighting, if I got that right, for pedestrians and for cars. Drivers.
Yeah, we have some LED lights in the city now. On some of our recent street improvement projects, Railroad Avenue has LED lights, and then the sidewalk on Roberts Drive up to the library has LED lights.
Thank you.
And sorry to interrupt, I don't know if it was done, but just to make sure, you have to make sure the motion to commit or refer specifies the committee it's going to. It may or may not have been specified.
I did.
It did? Okay, good.
Operations Committee.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
The next resolution is a resolution authoring a water quality grant agreement with King County for the North Commercial Stormwater Treatment Facility project. Mr. Botcher.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This has been the Council's highest priority environmental water quality project for the last few years. You may recall we received a grant from the Department of Ecology for the design of the project. It's been on our capital improvement plan. We received this grant from Wastewater Treatment Division, King County Metro Sewers, and they have a certain amount of environmental mitigation dollars that they want to put towards water quality projects, and they selected our project for funding. Not in total, this is about $250,000. We would still need around $600,000 for full funding. But once you get the first piece of construction dollars, it makes it easier to find the remainder. So the sooner we can get this approved, it helps us with the next grants.
Councilmember Morgan.
So this also is on for first reading, this stormwater treatment facility project, and it is assigned to the Government Operations Committee.
Well, let's see, which agenda are we working from? I'm confused.
Eric is working on her own agenda. The
numbers are the same. The numbers are the same.
Okay.
The one that was published is the agenda we're working on.
Yeah. So.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, it didn't say anything about first reading. I thought we were going to take action.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, this is our council rules, and the council rules are really not debatable.
I disagree with that.
No.
There's a motion. I don't hear a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
The next item on the agenda is a resolution confirming the mayor's appointment to the Planning Commission, position number 7.
I make a motion to move the resolution confirming the mayor's appointment to the Planning Commission, position 7, first reading, assigned to Growth Management Committee.
I second it.
Councilmember Dede.
So will there be an interview that you guys will be doing there, or what will happen at that committee meeting?
You're on that committee. Come on out.
I'm asking. I'm asking, and I don't know. If I'm on the committee, I don't know what's happening.
But if you attended the meetings, you would
But
know.
I can still ask. Are you saying I wouldn't know until I got to the meeting? What?
Are you willing to give up the floor?
Nope.
What?
Are you willing to give up the floor? Sorry. Are you willing to give up the floor? I don't have the floor.
Yeah, if you want to answer.
I have the floor.
Councilmember Pepper.
Yeah. Okay. You may recall that we approved planning commissioners, couple months ago at our committee meeting, and we were very pleased to have a chance to meet with the people that were applicants, and we asked them a series of questions to kind of get to know them a little better. And I think that the applicants and the audience and the council and the standing committee were very pleased with the results.
Councilmember Dede.
And will those questions that you're going to be asking be provided on the agenda for the citizens to look at and see the questions that you'll be asking?
They were provided to the people that were being considered.
So,
Mayor,
just a second. Are they supposed to interview these people? I thought it was my understanding that the Planning Commission, they're just supposed to confirm and not interview these people.
Yes, you guys interviewed them. All we did was try to get to know them a little bit.
The procedure is for the mayor to nominate. There's nothing that necessarily precludes other council members from interviewing and meeting with the candidates. So,
Okay.
Mayor?
Councilmember Edelman.
Since I'm not on the committee, I do have a question. Are you planning on interviewing both of the candidates or just the one that was selected by the committee?
I only have information on one candidate. I didn't even know there were two.
Councilmember Dede?
So again, my question is, so we all understand how the process works. So then 2 members of the committee then will meet with this gentleman at a different place and discuss and to get to know him with the questions. And then you at the committee will then have him come up. Because I asked, will you post the questions on the agenda for that night when when Brenda posts the agenda? Will the questions be on there? And you stated no. So I'm wondering,
I don't think they were on there last time. No.
How will the citizens be prepared to know the questions you're going to ask and to get to know this gentleman just like you want to get to know? So that's just my question. So are you going to post the questions that you're going to have Mr. Seth answer?
Excuse me. Yeah. Councilmember Weber.
Well, I'll just say as the vice chair of the growth committee, we can put the questions out for the public. It would should go out with the growth management agenda.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, yeah, it shouldn't be a problem.
Great.
So everybody can know what's being asked.
Perfect.
Then
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we had a motion. Do we have a second?
There was a second.
Did you second? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a resolution authorizing interlocal agreement with City of Maple Valley for building inspection services. Ms. Kincaid.
Thank you again. So this is the first time that I brought this resolution to you. This is the counterpart to the BHC resolution, trying to make community development whole in terms of the services that we are required to offer. So BHC that I spoke to earlier, that consultant would act as our designated building official and would do the plans check. This interlocal agreement binds just Black Diamond and Maple Valley would be providing our inspection services. If you recall, we previously had that 3-party agreement that had to be terminated, and then this is continuing the interlocal between Maple Valley and Black Diamond for their 2 inspectors to keep doing inspections here. They've done a great job. They've been a good fit, and it works out. So this resolution is for you to authorize the mayor to execute this interlocal agreement with the Black Diamond and Maple Valley just to do building inspections as they have been. Once again, we are without, right now, we're without a contract for building inspectors or plans reviewer or designated building official. We don't have a valid contract to have those services performed. So I hope that that you can consider this and that you, obviously I'm recommending approval, and I hope that you can authorize that in short order. Thank you. Oh, do you have any questions?
I have one question. Mm-hmm. Why would the city cancel a contract without having one to follow up, so you don't have this huge gap?
Well, we did. We had BHC. BHC was here. They were going to perform inspections as well. So you had that before we were without services, but it went to committee and it hasn't been approved. So in the meantime, there was a 60-day termination clause for the original ILA. Our 60 days are up. And so we were intending to have BHC do everything. Maple Valley called and said, hey, were my guys working out as inspectors? I said, actually, they really were working out well. So the community development director of Maple Valley and I decided that it would be to the benefit of the citizens to continue that relationship but the gap measure was BHC to perform all the services. We have flexibility, which is a really nice thing, because in the event that Maple Valley inspectors start to get really busy, they've got a lot of growth there, and there's just two guys. We have this backup between these two agreements to always have the inspection, plans review, building official will have everything that we'll need, and we won't run into this problem again when they get busy or take vacation or something. Does that answer your question, Councilman?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
A resolution authorizing interlocal agreement with the City of Maple Valley for building inspection services, first reading, assigned to Growth Management Committee.
I second it. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Next item on the agenda is the resolution awarding Jones Lake Overlay Project to Lake Ridge Paving, LLC. Mr. Botcher.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Well, I'm excited about getting this project moving forward. We've had good success with the pavement preservation program and the Transportation Improvement Board, and we have typically been applying for a project in the Lake Sawyer area and then a project in the Old Town area, and gone back and forth from time to time, paving a project here, then paving a project in the Lake Sawyer area. So this has been a street that is very near coming apart at the seams, so it's very important that we get it patched and then overlaid. This is a project we did the design in-house, saving the city funding from hiring a consultant. We've received excellent bids, such that we're quite a ways under the budget for the project. This would allow us to expand the overlay to perhaps some other streets. We would need to get approval from the Transportation Improvement Board for another street in the nearby proximity, and we've got some candidates. But it would be basically up to Transportation Improvement Board on a viable another street candidate to expand the project. That's the reason. So in this motion, we're recommending also is a high contingency fund to allow us to expand to pave an additional street beyond Jones Lake Road. This is fairly urgent because in the Northwest, we've got to get our construction done in the summer season. These asphalt contractors are booking their projects fast and furiously right now. Waiting around will be the last on the list, and I don't want to do this in October because it's very difficult to get a good job when the weather starts to rain. So the sooner we can move this forward, the better.
Councilmember Edelman.
I move that we suspend the council rules and act on this tonight.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
May I make another comment?
Councilmember Edelman.
Well, I think just to piggyback on what Seth has said, we all live here. We know that it's major construction time now through basically September. If we don't act on this, we have a bid from the contractor. If we don't act on it, that bid has a limited amount of time that it's valid. They could come back and say, this isn't good enough anymore, and oh, by the way, we're so busy, we're going to jack up the price. So it's not in the city's best interest to drag our feet on this one.
Councilmember Morgan.
As I recall, this item was on the mayor's agenda for our last meeting. It didn't follow the new council rules, or it could have been for these last 2 weeks in committee, and we could be having it back to vote today.
Point of order. We need to be discussing whether we're going to suspend the rules.
Well, just to address that is, yes, this project has been on the pending list, but the timing for us to get the staff work completed once the bids were in, we didn't have the packet ready in time to make the last meeting. So, yes, it's been on the pending list. That doesn't mean it was on the agenda for last week. I don't.
And I also have one other question.
Okay, go ahead.
Not really related.
Point of order. We're discussing whether we are going to suspend the council rules to act on this tonight.
Did you get
we
a
have
second?
a second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
Sorry, Seth.
So,
Councilmember Morgan?
Transportation Improvement Board money, is that the $20 license fee?
No, this is Transportation Improvement Board funding is
Different funding?
state funding. I think it comes from gas tax, but I'm not sure all the sources of revenue. The $20 tab fee I think you were referring to is the Transportation Benefit District funding that is available for maintenance of our street operations.
And I'm confused with the acronyms. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Weber?
Let's try and get it right this time. So I move that this item go to the Budget, Finance, and Administration Committee.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
I've got some. And
Councilmember Weber?
I think Councilmember Morgan got a little ahead, I think. I wasn't quite finished. So I'd like to amend the seconded motion or retract it and restart, yeah. So I make a motion to move this item for first reading to the Budget and Finance Administration Committee meeting with a back to council date of 5/19.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is a resolution approving the professional services contract with Parametrics for design of Covington Creek culvert replacement. Mr. Botcher.
Thank you. We received a grant from the Water or Flood Control District for the design of these culverts. I'm going to pass around some pictures of the inside of the culverts. You may have seen, even in the slide presentation last night, pictures of the culverts, and wow, they look pretty good. We've inspected these culverts in the dry season, and corrugated metal culverts tend to rust out in the bottom where the rocks are rolling over, and they're in the water. The water goes up and down, and they tend to rust in the lower 1/3. So even though they look great on the top, just pass these around. They're in pretty sad condition on the lower 1/3. And what happens is as the water, those holes begin to open up, then it starts flushing out the fines of the bedding around those culverts, and the water begins to run under them, around them, along the sides of them, and puts the road at risk of washing out. This is an expensive project, so we do not have the funds to replace these ourselves. So we need grant funding to assist and assistance to get these replaced. So this is kind of step one, getting the design ready, get a design budget or a permitted, ready-to-go project. So let's see. There's no match requirement. We would like to go back to the flood control district for additional funding. One of the inspectors that was reviewed this project from the flood control district is from King County Stormwater Department, and reviewed the culverts and agreed with us that our timing was right. You know, there's not much life left in these culverts. They need to be replaced. So that was weighed in on their decision for funding this project.
Councilmember Edelman.
Question, because, I mean, anybody that lives around Lake Story knows where these culverts are. This is to help control the downflow of Covington Creek flooding to like the Birch family and those that are down kind of west of Lake Sawyer and the Weir?
Well, it's not a flood control project in that respect. It will not control floods from just their replacement. The flood control aspect is what would happen if they wash out during a flood, then or they get clogged and then you lose the road, and there's another 3 culverts just downstream a little ways, clogs up there, and you get another dam, and so when these break loose, they tend to send a big slug of water that can damage property and losing the road itself. So it's not an area-wide flooding, but the potential of losing the road or other flash flood type damage downstream.
Well, and if you're the property owner that has the flood, it can be catastrophic.
Right.
Yeah.
Councilmember Morgan.
I actually saw this project at the flood control agenda as a prospective future project. And on Wednesday, I'll be at the RIA meeting, and I'll bring that up there too, because I know that one of the issues is the fish passage.
Yes, that could be. It will need to be evaluated with all the stakeholders involved with fisheries and in the design effort.
So I would move that this be assigned to the Government Ops Committee for.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
The next item on the agenda is an ordinance updating the stormwater code to meet Department of Ecology standards for Washington. First reading. Councilmember Pepper.
Yes, we'd like to assign this to Growth Management and Land Use Committee.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Councilmember Edelman.
Well, I just want to kind of reiterate what you said at the beginning of the meeting. We're not voting in a stormwater grant from the state to help with our stormwater issues, but now we want to impose stricter stormwater guidelines on a city that is understaffed and underfunded. And it makes absolutely no sense to me that we would push this through and basically keep this grant sitting on a back burner since February 4th.
Councilmember Deedy.
So I'm not sure who wrote this resolution. I have my suspicion. But has anybody contacted Mr. Botcher to go and talk to him about what he's been working on, his timeline, where he's at on this? You know, get your information from him. Has anybody contacted him before this resolution was done or anything?
Well, Mr. Botcher did bring his timeline, so to show if he'd like to hand it out to council. So can take as long as they want with this one in committee because he's not scheduled to go for it until.
Would you like me to address just some of the issues here on this? First of all, the timing is May and June. Staff, we have one construction season to get a lot of work done. This is also a time when we need to update the 6-year TIP, Transportation Improvement Plan. There's capital planning. We've got review of the schools, civils on my desk. So I've got way more than I can do right now. You know, it's fine to, if you approved an ordinance such as this, but typically I like to explain to the public what is the impact of this new legislation. That's going to take a lot of staff time to what are the fiscal impacts? What are the staffing requirements? What are the training requirements? What does this really mean? That takes time. You know, it's easy to just say, oh yeah, go and do it. But what is the impact to the staff to do to throw that into the work mix right now? We had planned to do this in the third and fourth quarter. Here's some, just a list of, the things that are on our plate. It's Scott and I. That's it. It's not like we've got, can call in a lot of extra staff. There's 2 guys to handle the administrative and these type of issues for Public Works.
Give me the extra one.
Also, there seems to be some misunderstanding. Whoever wrote the ordinance doesn't know the laws about the requirements of the Department of Ecology. And I've brought this up before, but it keeps seeming to coming up over and over, where the third whereas statement says, and our current omission of Volume 1, Chapter 2, makes our compliance questionable. That is totally false. Shouldn't be in there. I'm not sure why that keeps coming up over and over. As I explained before, when we adopted the 2009 Stormwater Management Manual, we followed exactly the requirements of the Department of Ecology. But if we're not believing me, I did pull up the email from Claire back in February 26, 2009, hopefully to put this to bed once and for all. So my question, I received this email from Ann Dettelbach. She was our administrator with the Department of Ecology. Dear Phase 2 permittees, for those of you planning to adopt the 2005 Ecology Stormwater Management Manual for Western Washington to meet permit requirements for controlling runoff from new development, redevelopment, construction sites, we wanted to remind you that the permit requires that your local government adopt thresholds, definitions, minimum requirements, and exception adjustment and variance criteria in Appendix 1 of your NPDES permit. The majority of the Ecology Manual is then emphasized, referenced within the Appendix 1 requirements. The permit Appendix 1 requirements are intended to replace, hear me now, replace the requirements of Volume 1, Chapter 2 of the Stormwater Management Manual for Western Washington. It is not correct to establish an ordinance that simply adopts the 2005 Ecology Stormwater Management Manual for Western Washington due to the differences between Appendix 1, Volume 1, Chapter 2 of the Stormwater Management Manual. So, and it goes on. So we wanted to make it very clear. So I wasn't even going to try and touch that. I just forwarded the thing directly to our attorney. Tom, we need to adopt the new DOE stormwater manual to be in compliance with our stormwater permit. We need to establish study sessions, public hearings in May, and adopt by the end of June. I will need your help with ordinance preparation. Please note the particular issues relayed by Ann Dettelbach of Department of Ecology below. So hopefully that addresses that. Those words in the third whereas should be stricken. Finally, there's the one other workload of issues. It's not just adopting it, but we have to, the permit requires that we must integrate the new permit requirements. So that's more than just adopting it. There's a lot of work in reviewing our other codes and where there might be conflicts. And so there is discretion on what amounts of low impact development we can live with, what we can't. Some of it maybe with our small maintenance crew that we're not going to be able to handle. So we maybe just cannot afford it, at least for a while. So there's decisions to make, things to talk over. The public needs to know what this is about. And right now, I don't have the time to tackle it. So thank you.
Thanks, Seth.
Madam Mayor?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Without that, the technical part, just from the legal part, on the face of it, there's some problems, legal problems, and I'll just leave it at that. So wherever the council deems it should go for discussion on that is fine. Just want to let you guys know a couple red flags, even just from a surface reading.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
For your next city attorney.
Did we move it?
There's no motion.
Let it go. Let it go. Oh,
Is there,
move on.
right, I make a motion to the ordinance updating the stormwater code for new development to meet Department of Ecology standards for Western Washington. First reading assigned to Growth Management Land Use Committee.
I'll second it.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Do we have any department reports? I don't have a mayor's report. Do we have any council? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I forgot one thing. We have a new union grievance, and did somebody want to make a motion to do an investigation?
I move that we do an investigation.
And I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. There was one other issue that we talked about tonight. I don't know if somebody wanted to make a motion about that. We talked about mediation. Does somebody want to make a motion about mediation?
I would like to make a motion that the council engage in mediation. I make a motion that the council engage in mediation to help us work more successfully together. Thank you.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, sorry.
I had a quick discussion. That includes with the mayor as well, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
That should be clear in your motion.
The council and the mayor, the presiding officer who is the mayor.
So you need to, if you're amending your motion, you need to rescind your first one.
Rescind what you did.
All right. I will rescind that and try to restate it in a better form. The Black Diamond City Council and the presiding officer, who is the mayor of City Council, would like to engage in mediation in order to address city business in a better way.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I do not have a mayor's report. Do you have a council report? Councilmember Dede?
So I have a little bit of stuff. So on the council rules, it is not debatable, but just as Janie showed that council rules can be suspended like we've done many a times the last 4 months. So I did attend the 9th annual joint council meeting with everybody here, with Maple Valley and Covington. Served at the Mother's Day luncheon today. I also met with Seth Botcher on the projects that were presented today. I also met with May Miller on the vouchers. I do have a couple of things. I'm not sure of the dates, but I just want to make sure everybody knows about the farmers market is coming back, and it will be over at the gym, so a new area. Let's see. We also have the boots and badges coming up pretty soon, June 22nd.
May 22nd.
Yeah, so you're going to talk about that, right?
Well, no, but I can't.
Yes, come up and talk about it.
Well, hopefully everybody knows, but kind of two separate things but they're interlocal. So the Chief for a Day event is a state-funded event that happens every other year at the Criminal Justice Training Commission. This year in August we have two chiefs, Santa Braun, who's 8 years old, and a 2-year-old Hunter Kaufman, both fighting cancer and out of treatment right now. And one of the fundraisers is the Boots and Badges event, which is happening on May 22nd. It's a police versus fire basketball game, and there's an auction. It's really fun, and they're $10 each. So if everyone here bought a ticket, you could come. That would be awesome. So 2 great kids, local, who families could desperately use some help. So we'll just put them in.
You gonna pass those out? You can pass those out? No.
You have to buy those.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, $10 each.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah, and if you want to put them out, I've got flyers here.
Perfect. Thank you. And then also the community center has a pig roast coming up in June. I'm not positive on the date. Tina, do you remember the date? 24th? Yeah, so be sure. This is our first time ever doing a pig roast luau, so it'll be a lot of fun. So please, keep in touch with the community center and look in the paper for that. And also, if Jamie could talk about the DARE graduations coming up as well, right? Next month? Yeah.
Yes, I don't know. I haven't had a date yet.
Yeah, so just keep that in mind, that's a huge thing for our 6th graders, or 5th graders now, yeah. 5th graders, and it's a great opportunity to go support those kiddos on their DARE graduation. Thank you.
Councilmember Morgan?
Well, I guess I already said that I was at the flood control, and yes, I was at the Tri-City meeting, and on Wednesday I will be at the RIA meeting. And this week, some of you know I have a personal relationship actually with the leader of the RIA, and he and I went down and looked at the slumping slide at Saltwater State Park, and discussed a little bit about the hydrology upstream from there and what had actually caused that slide. And that's one of the things that the RIA is considering and thinking about as people on the edge of terminal moraine, sitting over Puget Sound, and in other places try to figure out how to live best in harmony with the unstable soil underneath us and the things that can make it more unstable.
On the 28th, I attended that food waste film screening that was over at Kent Lake High School with the mayor. And it's amazing. This was a documentary done actually up in Canada with a little bit of stuff down in the Puget Sound area. But there's an amazing amount of food that is wasted not in our homes, which is what I thought this was going to be about, more like composting your stuff. This was the amount of waste at grocery stores, at manufacturing facilities, things that were tossed out, big, huge dumpsters of hummus that hadn't even hit their expiration date yet, but it was being tossed out. It was kind of an eye-opener. I'm not quite sure what we do at our end of it other than compost your stuff, but that was interesting. I actually participated in the recycle event at Maple Valley that we got authorized a couple of weeks ago. They took all my stuff. I met on the 2nd with Seth and Tammy, and then I participated in the Tri-City meeting last night. And then something else that I guess is on the other agenda, but I wasn't given that in advance. But coming up in the Sound Cities Association Public Information Committee next Wednesday, one of the items that is an action item is Sound Transit ST3 System Plan. Now, I don't know how many of you all know about Sound Transit or ST3 because we are not in the RTA area. But basically, there is going to be a vote coming up. What SCA is looking for is the PIC to make a determination on whether the Board of Directors should agree that this is a good thing. And they're all kind of leaning that way because all the big cities are in the RTA area and they all want light rail. So basically what this, I'm going to read you this recommended position because I want the council to tell me what they want me to do. The Sound Cities Association urges the Sound Transit Board of Directors to ensure the ST3 system plan honors a commitment to a truly regional transit system. In developing the final ST3 system plan, the Sound Transit Board of Directors is urged to retain the following principles from the draft plan. Number 1, a 25-year financial package to ensure a complete build-out of the light rail spine, as well as providing critical east-west connections throughout the region and north-south services on the east side. Number 2, a program for early deliverables to improve system access and bus reliability while incubating future light rail ridership. 3, investment in system access improvements that enables a person's ability to easily and safely access an integrated transit system, which includes additional park and rides and other parking options. 4, partnership with local jurisdictions to plan for and fund transit-oriented development and affordable housing, which promote walkable, compact communities in close proximity to transit service. And lastly, a commitment to working with local jurisdictions to assess ongoing improvements to access. I know that's a boatload of stuff. You can go on the SCA website if you want to actually get the whole big packet. This is just the quick synopsis. If you want, I can give you my opinion based on what I know, having been in these meetings for 3 years. Okay? Okay. So like I said, we are not in the RTA. We do not pay RTA taxes unless you go to an RTA area and do your shopping. We don't get RTA service out here. There's no Sound Transit out here. There's never going to be light rail out here. You know, I don't care what anybody's telling you. I don't see that in my lifetime or probably in many of yours. What my plan is, because we are outside of the area, is when it comes time to a vote, in my good conscience, I can't vote yes because I can't vote. Therefore, I can't vote no. I will probably have to take a break from the meeting while the vote is going on, and I will physically remove myself from the room as the vote is taken. That way, I don't abstain because I really don't have a legitimate reason to abstain. It's just easier to leave the room. That way, I'm not present for the vote. And unless you have objections, that's what I plan on doing. Any comments?
Sorry, go ahead.
So I know that, at the SCA meetings, we talk about a lot about, supporting the area, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things the council could do is support the verbiage that Councilmember Edelman just read, and say we support that. Obviously, we So we could have a stance of just saying that we support the SCA membership
Position.
as a whole, position, yes, and agree that that helps with that area. And also we don't know what citizens out this way are going to use that, or who does use it. So
Well, and I guess if I can interject too, Sound Cities is 35 cities that join together in this organization. It's over 1 million people in population. It's got a lot of political clout, not only within like King County, but also at the state legislature level. So if they like something, it carries some extra weight. If they don't like it, the other thing to remember too, this is going to a vote of the people. So basically what I'll be voting on is whether we want the Sound Cities Association to endorse ST3. And I can tell you, most of them are leaning towards, we talk about ST3 every month. And I think Carol's on skateboard, and you're talking about it too. Yeah. And so my thinking is that they're all leaning towards voting for it. That's fine, but when it comes actually to a ballot measure, none of us will be able to vote. So what would you guys like me to do?
Councilmember Weber.
Well, I was just going to say, I would be in favor of endorsing that verbiage, because even though we're not part of the RTA, thank you. Even though we're not part of the RTA, being out where we're at, it would be nice, because that would potentially take more cars off the road in other places that we have to drive to. So, get more people on the trains or link light rail or whatever, and then that kind of trickle down as far as maybe helping us out in this region with traffic.
Yeah,
Councilmember Pepper.
I would just like to ask a question. Having been part of this for 3 years and watching the decisions evolve and the things being talked about, what would you want to do as a council member representing Black Diamond? What do you think the best vote would be?
Well, like I said, I would probably leave the room during the vote. That's my personal opinion. Mm-hmm. But I'm only one person. We're a council of 5, and we need to have, it doesn't have to be unanimous, but it certainly needs to be a majority of the council that tells me how they want me to vote. And this is what we've done in the past. When there's a lot of issues that come up in the PIC that are information only, and I don't know if you guys get SCA emails. Their packets, on average, are 250 pages. I read every single page before I go to those meetings. So I want to be informed as best I can. Periodically, like this time, we have things that come up for a vote. And that's when I come back, and I've done it in the past, come back and ask the council what they think about it. Because I can go out on a limb. I don't have a problem doing that. But I would prefer to have a council that backs me up. So do I have...
Councilmember Morgan.
I actually have quite a few family members who use that RTA. They use it actually mostly where it's expanding now to go down to the U from the south end.
Are you talking light rail?
Okay. The light rail. I know that for a while, the SeaTac light rail station and parking lot was so full that you couldn't park anywhere near there unless you got there before 5 a.m.
That's true.
I know. And now I think is it about at 200th? That station is nearing completion. I guess I'm with Councilmember Weber when he says I do drive around the county quite a bit. I really do enjoy having those people not on the road with me, if that's possible.
You're supposed to take the light rail.
The light rail. Mostly I go east to west, and there really isn't much light rail east to west. I know you're giving me a hard time. I see it as an advantage, and in response to what you say, I mean, only half kidding. I'm going, well, it's really good that we're building on the rail track, that we have the Rails to Trails program, because that means that railroad track will one day, probably in 50 to 75 years, be open to handle commuter trains again. And then I can see the city of Black Diamond going back to being the village that it kind of set up as the plan that it was 100 years ago. I would be in favor of adopting what you read.
So do I have consensus?
I like what Councilmember Dede said about supporting the resolution that you read.
Okay.
I think that.
Okay, yeah, no, that's great, thank you,
And
I
so
appreciate that.
you have
I've got
support
consensus,
from
so
your
I
group.
will vote yes when it's up for a vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Weber, you have a report?
Man, what's left? Tammy's already taken the pig roast. You guys got the last night's meeting? No, but seriously, last night's meeting with Covington and Maple Valley, it was actually a really good meeting. Got to meet some of the other folks around the other cities. One of the big topics that came up last year that also came up again this year was the issue of homelessness and how to get more money out of King County, out our direction. Kind of have our own little jungle out by the gorge. I just wanted to, before I close up, was it the mayors or city managers that were possibly going to maybe look at some type of action with King County?
For the ban?
Well, for the talking about
homeless,
the
yes.
homeless funding.
The mayors and whoever wanted to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was a good discussion, and I'll just leave it at that.
Councilmember Pepper?
Well, what they said. We have our Growth Management and Government Ops Committee meetings during the month. We all went to a joint council meeting last night, and two of the larger topics were homelessness and children at risk. And apparently there are monies, and we are trying to figure out how to access them here in Black Diamond. So hopefully we can figure something out. And I also really like the Metro is doing a lot of work trying to tailor transportation needs to communities. And we saw a van that the city of Duval has started this program. And Metro came and talked to the city council here in December, and they were talking to the joint council meeting last night, and that seems to have some really good prospects for us out here. I also went to a meeting in West Seattle about parliamentary procedures by people who are like registered parliamentarians. So that was very interesting. So thank you for coming out tonight.
So Mayor Benson, could I just say something? So I have a couple of papers from that meeting. So one is the South King County Alternative Services Community Van that Councilmember Pepper was just talking about. And then also Tri-Cities Regional Trails Update, so if anybody wanted to look at that. But quickly, since we were all talking about homelessness, I just wanted to mention a couple of, well, one thing that I found kind of shocking, but 57 students in the Maple Valley area are homeless. 81 students in Enumclaw are homeless. And 501 students in the Kent School District are homeless. So, I mean, it's just crazy numbers to me, and so when you're thinking about helping your community, remember that you have a community center, you have the schools that we can all outreach to and see what we can do to help.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that 500 over 500 in Kent School District.
And they don't count children or people that are couch surfing.
That's right.
And so it doesn't really, these are people that they're living in their cars. Is that what I heard? So.
Do we have an attorney report?
I'll just briefly, I'm Yvonne Ward. I'm an emergency interim city attorney only. I have a very limited scope to handle just the emergent things that come up until a permanent city attorney is hired. Our city clerk sent out the request for proposal. Deadline is that tomorrow?
Yes, tomorrow.
And I think that's really going to serve the city well if the council and the mayor can move as fast as possible on getting a new permanent city attorney in place, of which I am not interested, nor will I apply. And I just really, I'm looking forward to that process, and I think it's really going to help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's time for the next public comments. Please come up and state your name and your city, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. And I think we're not going to extend the time this evening because it's almost 10 o'clock. Mr. Edelman, Councilmember Edelman.
Here, I can tape over my name and we can put Bob.
Sharpie.
Bob Edelman, 29871 232nd Avenue, Southeast, Black Diamond. I'm not sure you folks understand what you did tonight, but we cannot have any building inspections until all this gets resolved. Is that correct? No inspectors, no building inspections. So that comes to a halt at kind of an unfortunate time of the year. I'm not quite sure what happened to the, and this, maybe we need a parliamentarian tell us on this one, is the resolutions which were not approved. As far as my understanding is, those resolutions have been killed. You want to bring them back? Some that they're going to have to be resubmitted as new resolutions. Mr. Dudowski told me it was a good thing because they hadn't come out of committee. If you're wondering why things get bottled up and die in committee, Mr. Dudowski, and I'm quoting him, he says, now the committee also has the authority to keep it in committee. So if there's a 3-member committee and if there's not 2 votes to move it on to the council, it stays in committee. And so that's a very important power of the committee. Now, if you really wondered why things are being bottled up the way they are, that explains it. On to a different thing. This is that continuing saga of Erica Morgan leaving the executive session and having a discussion outside of it. She lied about that in response to a public records disclosure request. When that lie was exposed by a surveillance video, she stuck to it, stuck to that story. Now, she's reported to the Covington Reporter, the Covington Reporter reports her as saying this, that she was confusing the break from the executive session with another break that she went to the restroom with Bryant. There were no other breaks. There's the first law of holes states that if you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. Please stop digging, Miss Morgan.
Brock?
Brock Dede, Black Diamond. Just a clarification on the Black Diamond's Farmers Market. I think the decision has not been made yet as to where it's going to be. Is that right, Myra? Okay.
Well, while you're up here, you might as well talk a little bit about the gym.
Okay.
What you get for
So I just left a little while ago to close up the gym. So we're getting a lot of people, mostly basketball teams that are coming from other areas to come and rent the gym. So it's becoming very successful, I think. One gentleman is planned out through June. Every Friday, he's got one person that he's going to train in basketball. So he's scheduled an hour out every Friday until the end of June to do this personal training. And so we're getting people there. We're having open volleyball, and that's pretty successful, and it's a good thing.
I know you said not to extend, but I hope you'll give me maybe a minute more, and they honestly do apply to what was covered tonight and not the audience. Mr. Weber, you had stated that on number 3, the claim check was already paid. Is that correct? So I guess I'm confused. If it was already paid, why we're discussing it? And why is it going back to committee and going back to committee if the citizens have already, paid in the money and then you've already paid it? And what is there to discuss if we're paying it? When was it voted on to pay, and then why are we still discussing it? When I looked over in the packet, it was a bill from July of 2015, and here we are in May of 2016. So is this, if you say it's been paid, but we're still discussing it, if it hasn't really been paid, are we being charged any interest? Is there going to be a fee, any fines, any sanctions, anything like that that could be imposed on the city and the citizens because this isn't being taken care of?
I left a letter up there that's the grievance, and that kind of explains the issue with that check.
So there's a grievance that's been filed by this company? And
by the union.
By the union. So
yes, because Erica Morgan suggested that there was some funny business. That's why we're doing an investigation.
So what are the ramifications to the city that...
Well, I don't know until we do an investigation, because we've never done anything like this before.
Okay.
Everything is new.
Commissioner Morgan, you had stated that with the Civil Service Commission that you needed to go into executive session to speak with the police chief. Executive session is very, very limited and very specific. Okay. I take implicit notes, so I'm pretty sure what you said. Legal counsel can tell you that you have to have a very specific reason why you go into executive session, and I know the RCW is pretty well, that's not covered. Police chief, is this civil service vote, is it holding up or doing anything negative to the city?
That's probably a better question for our civil service secretary, for they're completely separate entities.
Okay.
I wouldn't say we have any pending. We have no issues pending.
Okay.
For our civil service commission. They do have regular meetings. If it becomes an issue and they're not available, there's only 2 current commissioners. Okay. So they've had to postpone meetings, or they don't have enough to vote if action does need to be taken, or if there is an incident that comes up. Yeah, we need commissioners. It's been made for over a year.
Okay, gotcha. Did all council members get a 2016 budget when you took office, or the beginning of the year? Okay, I thought so. So it's I'm not understanding how some council members are sitting up here drilling city employees on a budget that you've had, that you should know, and if you don't know it, you should have it with you. It's not their job to instruct you on the budget. It is your job to learn the budget for the city that you run. You should know the budget inside and out because this is your job. You work for them. It was very clear. You have a $34,000 budget and they want to spend $20,000. I suck at math. 24, thank you. But that's a $10,000 difference and that's under budget. You have the money. It's there. You've had this paperwork since Friday of last week. You had a planning commission on Monday. I don't understand why you're sitting here drilling the city employees like they made a mistake when you are the elected official who should know this inside and out. If you don't comprehend your job, please do the city a favor and step down. I'm not going to finish going over this because it's a lot. But I want the citizens to understand the impact of what was not passed tonight. You guys lost almost $650,000 in grants. They did not approve $625,000 in grants. So if anybody here has that kind of money to give to the city, please step up. They voted no on getting $625,000 to improve your city. That you don't have to pay in taxes, that doesn't have to come out of the budget, and none of them sitting up here have to pay it. It's coming out of your taxes. It's your streets that are not getting fixed. It's your stormwater drains that are not being fixed. It's the police officers, it's the fire department that are having to pay for their votes. All three of them that voted no are not answering to you. They're not giving you answers. They're just sitting there. They won't give you any answers. They won't tell you why. They can't even answer why it needs to go back to committee. That's all.
Anybody else wishing to speak? Mr. Dudowski.
Madam Mayor and council members and staff, thank you for your public service. My name is Brian Dudowski, and I'd like to ask the council president to give me an additional 3 minutes, and I'd like to suggest to you that the reason is because my name has been mentioned a couple of times, and that's rather unusual. And also you had a very long agenda. I've got a number of points to make that I think will be useful to the council, and I think these comments can be made and completed within 6 minutes, and I'd like to request that courtesy.
Councilmember Dede.
So at the beginning of public comment, the mayor stated that no overage. So all those citizens that came up knew that there was not going to be an overage of comment. So it would be a disservice to all the other people that came up to understand that they weren't going to get that extra time if we allow Mr. Dudowski to have that.
Madam Mayor, with all due respect, the council rules stipulate that the council determines whether an individual is afforded additional time. Just merely because a mayor made a statement doesn't mean really anything if the council determines that they wanted to do something different. And so again, I think that it will be useful to the council, and I think it'll be helpful to everyone.
Councilmember Dede.
So not one council member, when the mayor stated that, responded with a no, that will not be allowed, or no, we do not want to follow your recommendations. Not one council member up here stated no to that. And in my opinion, a non-response is a yes, we agree with the mayor.
Mayor?
Councilmember Edelman.
I also just want to say that some of us haven't drunk your Kool-Aid, Mr. Dudowski, and we really have been listening to you spout off your stuff for going on pretty much 5 years. So I think tonight you can keep it concise. It's after 10 o'clock at night. We had a very late night last night, and I think you can stick to your 3 minutes. So I do not support you getting extra time.
Mr. Dudowski, is there another person who could take up the last 3 minutes of what you have to say?
Oh, I doubt that because I took rather extensive notes, and I'm just speaking for myself, and so and again, it's I'm just requesting the courtesy. I don't want to belabor this.
No.
You have to wait until it's your turn.
Oh, are you suggesting that somebody would donate some time? Is that what you're suggesting?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand your request.
That's not in the rules.
But
That's not in the rules.
I was just asking if another person could speak what you were going to say for the last 3 minutes of it.
They can't read my mind, Councilor Pepper.
We've been pretty much keeping to the 3 minutes. I think there's been a little bit longer for some people, not too much. But in the interest of time and this evening, it would be good if you could try to honor that 3-minute piece, and if there is a person who can pick up the other part, so be it.
I'll certainly respect that, Councilmember. All right, first of all, the items that the council members voted no on, an approach that you may wish to do at your next council meeting is to vote to reconsider and then place the item in committee. I've seen other jurisdictions where there was a power play and there was a move to move things out of committee, and the council member just voted no. That was perfectly appropriate because it was a breaking of your rules. When Councilmember Morgan attempted to point out that those items were not properly on the agenda, and that there would be required a waiver vote before it could be considered, she was shut off, and so that's not appropriate. And so those items are still very much alive, but there is a procedure by which you'd have to breathe life back into them. Secondly, it is very inappropriate for the presiding officer to tell a council member who is challenging the decision of the chair to not take that vote, and then to compound that error by claiming that that individual was unruly and stating that that individual would be removed is probably one of the most egregious abuses of a presiding officer's authority that I've ever seen in some 40 years of experience. It is simply not appropriate.
Sorry.
Number three,
Sorry.
The third item is that with respect to the ecology grant, I've advised jurisdictions all over the state on this. Every jurisdiction is having their funds cut by a comparable amount. They're not picking and choosing, as Councilmember Dede suggested. With the DKS voucher, the second issue that you all are considering is the work scope of the DKS contract. That's a growth management concern. That's why the Growth Management Committee was looking at it. The fifth item is that I went to the joint council meeting, and I was very, very troubled by the fact that the mayor made 3 attacks in front of 3 councils, a congressman, and all the staff. And she stated that the council was attempting to change the form of government, the council was holding things up, and the council only passed 2 items. These were not correct. It was very embarrassing. My wife and I have a lot of friends in Maple Valley and Covington among the elected officials. We spoke to people. They were very embarrassed by the actions of your mayor. It doesn't reflect well. I understand that someone may choose to take the temptation to take this venue to attack the council. Believe me, it is incredibly inappropriate. It just isn't done. And you just want to keep those kind of arguments in the city, because when you do that in the outer world, you're hurting the reputation of the city. The sixth item is... Seriously? The next item, with respect to sound transit, I've been advising other jurisdictions on what they should do with this. The issue that resolution particularly addresses is with park and rides. The suburban cities want to make sure...
Mr. Dudowski.
Yes, Councilmember, thank you. Councilmembers, thanks for the opportunity to address you.
Is there anybody else wishing to address council? Tina?
Tina McGann.
Order, please.
I'm speaking tonight as a citizen of Black Diamond. I'm trying to think of how to describe how I'm feeling, and all I can say is my mind is blown. I mean, honestly, I was not able to attend the April 21st meeting. I just gotten back from taking 21 8th graders to Washington, D.C., which I find is kind of funny because the purpose of that trip was to expose them to our government and to expose them about the principles that our government was founded upon and the checks and balances of our government. So spending 5 days in D.C. and teaching 21 8th graders was pretty amazing for me. I came home and I had mounds of laundry to do, so I decided, well, put on the council meeting audio. Whoa, what a difference. I don't even know how I could describe that to those 8th graders. This is not checks and balances. This is not what our country was founded upon. This is embarrassing. This is inappropriate. As a citizen as a parent, as a business owner, I am appalled at how this council is behaving. Do you know how many citizens are in this city? How many?
About 4,170.
On your website, it says 4,109. That means you represent 4,109 citizens. You do not represent the 725 people that voted you in, or the 725 that voted you in, or the 710, or the 1,000, or the 711. You represent 4,100, okay, and 9. I want you to remember that. You don't just represent those people. You represent every single one of us. And every decision you make, it should be on your mind that that's who you represent. My second point is I am equally as appalled and just disappointed, and my heart breaks for you not approving the resolution about the building services and the inspection. You guys each obviously have your own agenda, but you are now bringing in children. These children of your city that you represent are now victims of your own agendas. And do not tell me you don't have an agenda, because Councilmember Morgan, I saw you early December at Lake Sawyer Veterinary Hospital, and you said to me, you said, oh, I just told Kristen that we finally have majority and we can finally get our way. And I said, well, what's going to happen if you don't listen? If they don't listen, you said, we're going to ram it down their throats. Unacceptable. So you do have an agenda, and you are now bringing in kids. Stormwater, lights, yes, important, but you are bringing in innocent children. You are now going to possibly postpone the brand new elementary school. It will bring all those kids under one roof. Get 40% of those kids out of portables. Councilmember Weber, you have kids in our district.
Yeah, I do.
This is absolutely horrifying and ridiculous. You're putting at risk $3 million of state match money. $3 million. Because of your own agendas and your shenanigans, listening to outside members. I mean, please, I am begging you, please wake up.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to address council?
Dennis Box, Black Diamond. Just a quick note on the inspections. When I work construction, you call in for an inspection. If you ain't there within 5 days or less, you can cover. If you know what cover means, it means you can continue on and finish your project. The inspection is null and void.
Is there anybody else wishing to address council?
Jackie Buss, Black Diamond. I am like everyone else that's been here, mostly everyone else, that we are very dissatisfied with council. You guys do have your agenda, and you guys are going to bankrupt Black Diamond. I mean, how can you not? We're going to not have a school, and all the things that you guys are just postponing is just ridiculous. I just want you to know, as soon as I can get your guys' ass out of here, you won't be here. Sorry for my language.
Is there anybody else wishing to address council? Seeing no one? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you.
In the back. No, Robin's always a two-timer.
Robin Taylor, Black Diamond. I want to explain to Mr. McDermott why I called out Mr. Dudowski tonight. Brian Dudowski, Kristen Bryant, Pete Kellerman, and Judy Carrier have all entered the political arena. They have chosen to enter the political arena. Therefore, they're fair game. They've opened themselves up to public comment, just as I have. But I'm a big girl, and I can take it. I can take it. I don't have to hide in the shadows or hide behind council members. I don't have to do that. I'm a big girl. I can take it. But they want to shut down anyone that calls attention to their behind-the-scenes dealing.
Now, tonight was definitely a different council meeting. It was not raucous, riotous, it was not a circus, it was not a zoo, but it was obstruction. Absolutely. You three hardly looked at anybody. You hardly said a word. Erica did most of the talking. And frankly, at this point in time, I don't put much stock in what she says. You guys are supposed to be council members, and yet you called out civility and courtesy multiple times, Councilmember Pepper, at the last meeting. And yet none of you have the courtesy to answer any questions that are asked of you in a very civilized manner by a fellow council member, and you can't even give the courtesy of an answer. And she's not asking because she doesn't know. She's asking because she thinks maybe the public wants to know. Do you know the public is sitting out here, and we want to hear what you have to say? She's asking questions, and we want to know the answers too.